Hello you guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Emily and I post a ton of bookish content on here. If you are not new here, welcome back. Happy to have you. I'm so freaking excited right now because I have not had a sit down video in the new house yet. And this is kind of what the setup's gonna be like. I do have more books coming in the mail from my previous house, but in the meantime, we have a few empty shelves. It's great. Either way, I still have 2 bookshelves. Plural. I can't believe it. I literally am so happy with my new office setup. You guys are going to be seeing that in the next couple of weeks, so be sure to turn on that notification bell and subscribe if you want to see the big reveal of this beautiful space. But in the meantime, today we are going to be doing the mid-year freakout tag because I've seen so many people do it, and my last sit-down book video was kind of like this. It was like a mid-year check-in, but there is an actual tag that someone created with a bunch of questions, and I'm going to answer them for you today based on my reading experience. So I probably most likely have a few of these books on my shelf right behind me, but just for the convenience and easiness of this video, because I am still super not unpacked, I'm just gonna be putting everything up on the screen here for you guys. And the very first question is best book of the year so far. So this one I know for a fact that I don't have it on my shelf because I would have remembered, and that is Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake. Oh, this book is so good. If you don't know what it's about this girl named Delilah who doesn't really get along with her stepfamily and decides to move to the big city to become a photographer. So she doesn't really have much contact with her stepfamily, but her stepsister is very adamant on her being the photographer for her wedding. So she goes back to her hometown, which I believe is called Bright Falls, and she is the photographer for her sister's wedding. However, when she gets there, she ends up having a really deep connection with one of her sister's best friends, who is also a woman, and oh, it's such a good queer romance. I highly recommend. Don't want to spoil anything for you. I will just say that the connection between the 2 characters is so good. The small town vibes are amazing. They go camping in it. The way that Ashley Herring Blake describes just the scenery of the town and the relationships and all that good stuff is chef's kiss. So very, very happy that I read this because it was above and beyond my expectations and by far my favorite book of the year so far. Best sequel so far would have to be Akamath. I feel like this is everyone's answer, but if you have not read A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, or Akamath is the second book to it, and this is going to be, I'm pretty sure, like a 7-book series total, but Akamath is the second book, and it basically gets you to get to know all of the biggest main characters, also known as the Inner Circle. This is the best, so far at least, the best found family that I have ever read about. I love all of the characters. If you know, you know. Feyre and Rhysand, oh, so good. But I would say Akamath is probably the best sequel I have read so far this year. The next one is new release that I haven't read yet, but I still want to. And I'm gonna give my friend Hannah Grieve a big shout out here. If you have not heard of the book, The Secret of Marky Beach, it is a YA thriller mystery with a little bit of romance mixed in there. And I worked with Hannah at the Indigo in my old city, and she is so talented. Her book just released in July, I believe it was July 12th. You can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Indigo. I'm not sure if you can get it on Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, places like that yet, but by far, like, I plan on reading this book as soon as possible. She did give me a free e-copy, which I really, really appreciate, but I also decided to pick up a physical copy because I just want to support her in any way that I can. So be sure to go check out The Secret of Marky Beach. It sounds like such a great story, such an awesome mystery, and I think a lot of people are gonna love it. I just hope that, honestly, it blows up. I hope that people see it on TikTok. I hope that people use it on Bookstagram for reels and stuff, because it is by far just gonna be such a great small town summer/fall mystery YA. The next one is my most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I could only really think of 2. I mean, I guess you're only supposed to have 1, but I could really think of 2. I could not narrow it down. So I have It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. If you're not aware, this is the sequel to It Ends With Us. And then I'm also super excited for the sequel of Delilah Green Doesn't Care, which is called Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail. And this book is another queer romance that revolves around her stepsister Astrid Parker, and she meets like this architect, I think, or like construction worker woman. But yeah, both of those, super excited about. The biggest disappointment, I don't have either of these books right now. One I actually gave away, and the other one I believe it's in a box somewhere on its way here, but the two that were the most disappointing for me this year so far were My Lovely Wife, which I did talk about in my last video, and One Italian Summer, which I also discussed. So these, honestly, like, I could see people liking them, but My Lovely Wife was just very predictable. The way the third person was written, in my opinion, was just not very entertaining. And I don't know, I just wish that different things happened for the most part. So I had high expectations and it kind of just let me down. And then I love Rebecca Searle. If you are not aware, she wrote In 5 Years as well as Dinner List, and then obviously One Italian Summer. And there were just a lot of controversial points in this book that I was just like, I don't know how I feel about that. There is magic realism in this book, and so I suppose taking that into account, it should kind of like lower my uncomfortability, but it just didn't. And certain things that the main character did, I was just like, no girl, no. This book is mostly discussing like a woman's relationship with her mom who just passed away, and I just felt like the relationship was a little bit too close, that it just kind of, yeah, again, made me feel uncomfortable. So both of those books were kind of disappointments for me this year because I had high expectations for them. The biggest surprise this year. So I had a high expectation for this book too, but it just blew my expectation out of the water and it surprised me to no end. The ending was, I was literally shaking. Like, I had to reread it out loud to my boyfriend and mom because it was just like so intense. And that is The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. By far my favorite thriller so far this year. More than 5 out of 5 star. While I knew it was going to be good, it just, like I said, blew my expectations out of the water. So definitely so many plot twists. The plot is amazing and I would highly recommend you go pick that one up. New favorite author. I'm gonna just say Ashley Herring Blake because I had never read any of her stuff prior to this year, and Delilah Green Doesn't Care just was so life-changing for me. So Ashley Herring Blake is definitely an author that I plan on continuing to read her new books as they come out, and I might even go look into her backlist and maybe read some of her other books. Newest fictional crush. I would say I have a few, but if I had to choose just like the newest, I would probably say either Scott Ritchie by Set On You. He was Crystal's arch nemesis in the gym, and they ended up kind of becoming like a found family because, how do I explain this? Her grandma married his grandpa. So they're not really related, but their families did come together, and the way their relationship played out in the story, it just felt like such a deep connection, and it was funny, and I just felt like these were real people. So Scott was so good to Crystal, and I just love that. Plus he worked out and like he gives off a Chris Evans vibe, so we love that. And then the other one that I could easily think of was Ledger in Reminders of Him. He is such a good dad figure to Kenna's daughter, and he's like the only one in the town when she comes back from being in prison for so long that really just sees something good in her. And I just have a soft spot for people who always see the good in people. It's not always a good trait, but I think that Ledger is just like funny, sexy, good dad figure, and he seems super invested in Kenna's daughter's life. And yeah, I love him. He was so good, so good. Plus he's like a small town dude, which is always, you know, they have like this charm to them, I guess. My newest favorite character is actually Marianne from Normal People. Not to say that I relate to her or I think she's a good person or any of that necessarily, but I just find her to be the most complex, interesting character that I have read this year, and I would love to see more of her. I'm still watching the show because once we moved, we kind of just like paused for a little while, but I forget her name, but the actress who plays Marianne in that show does a phenomenal job at kind of bringing her from the book to life. But yeah, Marianne and Connell, I mean, they're both super complex characters, but I just really am so intrigued by Marianne. So I would say she's my favorite character, not necessarily because I think she's likable or anything like that, but as a character, she's just really fun to read about. A book that has made me cry, going back to reminders of him. I sobbed like a baby during that book. Mostly during like the last quarter of the book, I just remember sobbing. So that book, I think that's probably like it's one of my favorite books from her. It's definitely in my top 3 from Colleen Hoover, and I don't think I've actually cried from much else this year, so if that says anything, I don't know. I don't cry very often in books though. A book that has made me happy. This one is definitely something that I was never expecting to put on this list, but it truly did make me so happy to read it, and that is It's Been a Pleasure, Noni Blake. This was recommended by my friend, and it took me by surprise. Like, I rated it a 4 out of 5, and it's basically just about this girl named Noni Blake who goes about her life pretty stagnant, and she just feels like she deserves more. She deserves more happiness, more love, more self-acceptance, more, you know, all these things. And so she goes on this adventure to achieve those things and tries to just only think about what she wants and what would make her happiest. And the premise of the book, I mean, she's trying to be happy. It just made me happy reading about it. My favorite book to movie or TV show adaptation. I kind of forget. I think I read this book last year, and then I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure I read this book last year, and I may have watched the show last year, but I'll be totally honest, I haven't really watched that many this year, and a lot of them kind of suck. So the one that really just like stands out to me is 9 Perfect Strangers by Leanne Moriarty. That book was, I would say, like a 3.5 or 4 out of 5, and the TV show, phenomenal. So good. I think it's on Amazon Prime. Definitely go check it out. It was amazing. The actors that were chosen were by far just like so perfect, and the effects, the plot was very similar, but they actually made it a little bit better than the book in my opinion. So that was such a good adaptation. If I had to choose one this year, I would choose Normal People. However, I'm not done it yet, so I don't want to say that it's the best if I haven't seen it all, but if I had to choose one that I know I for sure have watched in 2022, so far Normal People is the best adaptation for me. My favorite review that I have written so far, I wish I could say it's one of the books that I really enjoyed, but I am gonna actually say it's One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle, just because I definitely was the most honest. I have a hard time being negative in my reviews, but I think that I provided a lot of detail on the book without spoiling it, and I was very honest in my opinion of how this book did not make me feel very comfortable. And it's hard for me to express that sometimes in reviews because I love the authors typically, and I don't want to lie, obviously. So I think that this one was just the most well-rounded. It gave a little summary without spoiling. It gave all of my thoughts, positive and negative, and it was just very honest. So I think One Italian Summer would probably be my favorite review so far. The most beautiful book I have bought this year. Guys, I do have notes in my phone, and this one was so hard for me to choose. Like, I really don't know, because I don't really know what books I bought this year. Like, I've bought a lot, but I can just say Maggie Moves On. I just finished reading it, and I do really enjoy the art and the coloring and the cuteness of this cover, so we'll just show that one off. But I'm sure there are other ones that are much more beautiful. I can't think of which one right now. And lastly, books that I want to read by the end of the year. Obviously, this list goes on and on and on, but I chose 4 to share with you guys because these were the ones that just popped in my head first. First one being The Stand by Stephen King. I don't know why, but I just am so fascinated by this storyline, and I think it kind of relates to the fact that we are going through, or we did go through COVID, and we're kind of coming out of it now, and this book is basically about a virus that just explodes worldwide, and I just really love Stephen King. So that one is on the list. Barefoot by Elin, I forget, Hildebrand. I really do want to read this one this summer, so I'm hoping I will get to it next month or this month, depending on, you know, how quick I read, but I'm not really in a rush right now reading, just with everything going on. During the Halloween season, I really want to read One of Us is Dead by Geneva Rose. Like I said, I adored The Perfect Marriage. I do really want to read her other books, like The Girl I Was, but One of Us is Dead is definitely her newest release, and I really want to read it this Halloween spooky season. So I'm so excited about that one. And the last one that I want to mention is A Court of Wings and Ruin. It's the third book in the ACOTAR series, if you're not aware, and if I can just finish that book by the end of the year, then at least I have the novella and the next new book that comes out in September in paperback. It's already out, but like in paperback, I can read those at the beginning of next year, because like I said, I have been hearing that there are 2 other books on top of A Court of Silver Flames that are yet to come out, so I don't want to rush everything and then forget what happens, but I'm trying to just space them out evenly. So yeah, A Court of Wings and Ruin is definitely one that I want to finish before the end of the year. And those are all of my answers to the mid-year freakout tag. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I probably could have included more books, but these were the ones that instantly came to my mind when I was answering all the questions. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more bookish content as well as moving vlogs from me. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!